This is one of the last Dorne videos. Quickly, House Stark will begin Sunday, August 16th. There won't be any new Game of Thrones videos next week as I had last-minute vacation approved, and I want to enjoy it without worrying about getting videos up. So no new videos next week, but House Stark full steam ahead after that. If you have any questions about Dorne, please leave them in the comment section below and I'll make a separate Q&A video to post. Also note, you'll be seeing more non-Game of Thrones videos on this channel starting the week of the 16th as well. Thanks. So this video, we're going to talk about House Yronwood, one of the most powerful vassals of House Martell. This video, I'm actually going to pronounce it House Yronwood, since that's the only pronunciation I haven't given any love to. However, if you watch my other videos, you can pronounce it as Yronwood, 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 etc. It just depends on who you talk to. House Yronwood came to be when the first men arrived in Dorne via the Broken Arm that wasn't actually broken at the time of their coming. House Yronwood would travel north and west to settle where the mountains ran down to the Sea of Dorne. There they would build their home among the high valleys and green foothills below the peaks of the Red Mountain. This location allowed them to seize control of the Stoneway, one of two great passes into Dorne. However, this pass was much narrower and treacherous than the Prince's Pass to the west. This was an opportune spot for House Yronwood to choose. They were well protected by the mountain, the land was more fertile than many other areas of Dorne, and it also contained timber and valuable deposits of iron, tin, and silver. This location and the included resources greatly gave House Yronwood the upper hand, and they quickly became one of the richest and most powerful of the Dornish kings. They would style themselves the Blood Royals, Lords of the Stoneway, Masters of the Green Hills, and High Kings of Dorne. In no time at all, their house would rule northern Dorne from the mountain domains of House Will to the headwaters of the Green Blood. They would also attempt to force other Dornish kings to bend the knee, including House Martell at one time. But overall they would rarely be successful in this. House Yronwood, like many other stony Dornishmen, would make enemies out of the lords in the Dornish marches and surrounding areas. Raids and skirmishes led by cruel Dornishmen are still sung about in current Westeros time. We also have a few stories of these conflicts between House Yronwood and the lands beyond Dorne. In one story, we learn that Eric VII Doradon, king in the Stormlands, had to constantly fend off incursions by the Dornish king Oliver Ironwood. In another story, we hear of Yoren Ironwood alongside the warrior maid Willa of Will attacking Doran the Young and his lands. However, Yoren Ironwood and Willa of Will were eventually turned back by Doran the Young and the river Slane dammed with the Dornish corpses. There are also an uncountable number of other attacks that House Yronwood led or planned against the Dornish marches and surrounding lands. So here's House Yronwood, the big roosters in Dorne, controlling almost half of Dorne until the Rhoynar come. Roughly 700 years before the start of the A Song of Ice and Fire novels, Nymeria and the Rhoynar would come to Dorne, join with the Martells, and start their conquest of Dorne. After Nymeria and the Martells defeated many of the kings of Dorne, or brought them to their side, the greatest of their foes remained, Yorick Ironwood, the Blood Royal, fifth of his name, Lord of Ironwood, Warden of the Stoneway, Knight of the Wells, King of the Red March, King of the Green Belt, and King of the Dornish. The Martells and their allies would battle Sir Yorick and his allies, House Jourdain, House Will, House Blackmonts, House Corgyles, and more, in battle after battle. In the third battle of the Boneway, Sir Yorick would slay Mors Martell, the head of House Martell and husband of Nymeria. But Nymeria would take control of his armies, and in 2 years, she forced Yorick Ironwood to bend the knee. After beating House Ironwood, Nymeria and the Martells would control all of Dorne from then on. This didn't go over well with House Yronwood. Before the Rhoynar came, they were the most powerful house in all of Dorne, and ruled almost half of Dorne, and their house doesn't want anyone to forget that. Of all House Martell's vassals, House Yronwood is the most likely to rebel, and they have done so many times. Not only did they thumb their noses at the Martells in their own rebellions, but they also did so by joining in other rebellions. When the Blackfire rebellions occurred, the Lords of the Ironwood fought for the Blackfire Pretenders, the Black Dragon, and 3 of the 5 rebellions, which is a particular FU to House Martell since they were very close to House Targaryen at the time of these fights. It also shows considerable hate for House Martell and the Targaryens because the rebels House Yronwood joined had a side goal of removing Dornish influence from the Iron Throne because they didn't like the Dornish. The only other history fact of interest about House Yronwood is that when Aegon the Conqueror came to take Dorne, he did have a minor siege at Ironwood, but there was only a handful of women, boys, and old men to oppose him. So House Yronwood fought back a teeny bit during Aegon's conquest, unlike most of the houses that didn't even bother and completely abandoned their castle, and the people left in them put their hands up and surrendered. So, you go, feisty House Yronwood. Lastly, let's talk about modern House Yronwood. Before the A Song of Ice and Fire novels begin, Oberyn Martell slept with the Lord of Ironwood, Sir Edgar's paramour. This caused a duel to be fought between the two men, which in it is believed Oberyn used a poison blade that resulted in the festering of Edgar's wounds and his death. A rebellion would have occurred if Prince Dorne hadn't responded immediately by sending his brother, Oberyn Martell, across the Narrow Sea, and shortly after Prince Dorne giving his son, Quentyn, to House Yronwood to foster as a sign of trust. And this is where we get into book spoilers, so if you are a non-book reader, please don't listen past this point. If you are a book reader that doesn't want Winds of Winter spoilers, I would also stop listening. About 27 years after Oberyn's duel, Prince Doran Martell entrusts House Yronwood with his plans to send his son Quentyn to Meereen to marry Daenerys Targaryen, and 2 individuals of House Yronwood even accompany Prince Doran's son, Cletus Ironwood, the son of the Lord of Ironwood, and Archibald, the nephew of the Lord of Ironwood. This shows that the tension between House Martell and House Yronwood is most likely low at this point. Prince Dorne must trust House Yronwood to give them access to information that in the wrong hands could reveal the Martells as traitors to the Iron Throne. Currently, Lord Ironwood has also, under the instructions of Prince Doran, mustered an army that is waiting in the Boneway. Among Lord Ironwood's armies is the best part of House Tolan's strength. In the Boneway, their armies wait for further instructions, or rather a word. If the word sent is war, then Lord Ironwood knows to keep his armies in place. If the word sent is dragon, then the armies march. So that is House Yronwood, past to present. Thank you for watching. Come back every Sunday and Wednesday for new Game of Thrones videos. We'll be back Sunday, August 16th with House Stark. Again, if you have any questions about Dorne, leave them in the comments below and I'll release a Q&A video for Dorne.